What's good, YouTube? I'm back with another video. Today we are reacting to insanely dangerous places you should never visit. If you guys enjoyed these reactions, please leave a like on the video. Leave down in the comments any other videos y'all would like me to react to in the future. And subscribe to the channel. We are 3 away from 100. I have a special video for y'all at 100 subs. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into this.
The most insane, dangerous places you've never heard of. You and your best friend have decided to go to Ethiopia to explore the landscape and to do some hiking. You find yourself camping and living off the land, sleeping in tents, stargazing, and fortunately you did pack food because catching decent food in the middle of a Ethiopian desert isn't quite ideal. As the sun rises one morning, you decide to go a place you haven't quite explored yet. A direction that from a distance doesn't look anything special, but for some reason it's calling your name. You set off walking through the rather flat and barren landscape, with mountains off in the distance, but nothing particularly special, until you notice something strange in the distance. You find yourself approaching small pools of water, but these pools of water don't quite look right. You see boulders and rocks that are orange and yellow and white. You see water that is varying colors of green, and you feel like you almost walked into an alien planet. As you approach some of these pools of water, you realize they're not just sedentary pools of water, they're volcanic hot springs, and they're steaming. At this point, you're standing directly beside one of these large green puddles, surrounded by orange and yellow rocks, and your friend starts to cough almost uncontrollably. They're telling you that their throat is burning and they run away because they can't catch their breath and they feel like they're literally inhaling bleach. Whatever was affecting them wasn't affecting you, and you decide that you want to investigate a bit further. This green, warm water is essentially at this point begging for you to touch it, and you dip your hand in this water. It's warm to the touch and only slightly warmer than a hot tub, but it has a strange sensation that feels a little bit more than just typical hot water. You notice your hand went from a warm sensation to almost numb, and at that point you lift your hand out of the water to realize that the hand that you once had is no longer there, and you are simply left with exposed bone. This water is not only boiling, but extremely acidic. More acidic than battery acid, and 10 times stronger than the acid we all carry in our stomachs. Understandably terrified, you sprint away from this demonic puddle of water and catch up with your friend who's only now catching your breath. You two are both too freaked out to even speak and decide to sprint back to your base camp only a few kilometers away. It's only on your way back to base camp when you start to feel the effects of the extreme dehydration you and your friend are suffering. You don't have any moisture to sweat, your muscles are beginning to cramp uncontrollably, and all you and your friend can do is simply sit and hope that something, anything, could potentially come to save you. But in the middle of a barren wasteland in Ethiopia, help isn't coming, and you and your friend just became victims of the Danakil Depression. The Danakil Depression is such an interesting and honestly unique place, and although I may have embellished a few details in the story, everything I did say was true. The Danakil Depression is a very unique and odd geographical phenomenon located, like I said, in Ethiopia. It's called the Danakil Depression not because it's upset, but because it is literally depressed into the ground, located over 400 feet below sea level. And the reason why this place even exists is because it's in the center of 3 tectonic plates that are slowly shifting apart, meaning that the depression is slowly sinking deeper and deeper into the ground. Before we even get into the weird colored rocks and weird toxic water that exists within the Danakil Depression, it's important to note one thing. The Danakil Depression is the hottest place on Earth year-round. So although technically Death Valley in California has the highest recorded temperature, keyword recorded, the Danakil Depression has the highest average temperature year-round, that being 34 degrees Celsius as an average, which is 9 degrees hotter than the average temperature of Death Valley, and even a few degrees hotter than the second hottest place on Earth year-round. That fact alone would make it worthy of being on this list, because those kinds of heats are deadly. But for the Danakil Depression, that's one of its more tame attributes. So we know why it's called a depression, and we know why it's slowly sinking, and now we know that it's extremely hot, but what's going on with these weird moon rocks? Well, there's actually a few reasons for that. What little water is available mixes with the iron, copper, and sulfur from the surrounding volcanoes. Oh yeah, did I mention this place literally has volcanoes too? That high concentration of minerals minerals and the low concentration of water with the very unique conditions that the volcanic region provides creates these very strange and unique looking structures. The water is in fact acidic, although it likely wouldn't melt your hand to the bone in a matter of seconds, but it is in parts more acidic than battery acid and, like I mentioned, 10 times more acidic than the acid in your stomach. Not all of the water is this acidic, although none of it's marked, and personally, that's not a gamble I want to take, so I wouldn't be dipping my hand in. Oh, and the throat burning? Yeah, that's because of the high concentration of chlorine that also exists in some of these pools. Once again, unmarked, so it's kind of a gamble on which pools are gonna burn your throat and melt your skin, but if you get the right pool, you'd be sitting in a nice natural jacuzzi, but there's other places you could do that, likely less risky as well. I wanted to add the Danakil Depression to this list just because it's so unique looking and honestly has some very unique attributes. It almost reminds me of a combination between Lake Natron and Death Valley because it consists of obviously an extremely hot location that also has very deadly bodies of water. This is something that I haven't heard of until doing research for this video, so I knew it was a great way to start off the video. But this is only the first entry on this list, and you and your friend are only beginning your globe-trotting journey around the world. So let's get to this next dangerous location you probably should have never gone to. You're getting off the plane at your next location, and at this point, you and your friend are still confused on how you made it out of the Danakil Depression alive. Regardless, you get right to your expedition. Walking off the remote runway, you walk directly into the Amazon rainforest. Part of the Amazon rainforest that is specifically in Peru. You and your friend realized that you didn't necessarily enjoy the barren landscape of an African desert, so you figured getting some lush forests with plenty of moisture would be a nice change of pace. You and your friend are swinging machetes, cutting down brush, and making your own little trail, and seeing a lot of really unique and cool things that live in the rainforest. When all of a sudden, you see a weird fog roll in. This isn't necessarily uncommon for the rainforest, as fog is common in particular parts, but you're not at a particularly high elevation, but it doesn't strike you as too peculiar. You keep hacking and slashing, and you notice that you're getting closer and closer to a river, something you've been looking for at this point as you've exhausted all of your water. You and your friend are definitely more timid about random water sources at this point, but this water is normal. It's not green, it's not surrounded by volcanic sulfur rocks, nobody's breathing in chlorine gas, and everything seems to be fine. Besides the fog that's gotten thicker and thicker, and seemingly warmer. But you brush off that warm fog as simply a product of hiking through the rainforest, and a mixture of the humidity plus your body heat would make any fog feel warm. Your friend, less careful than you, decides that it's the perfect time for a swim, and although he can't see the water, he knows where it is. So he takes off his backpack and jumps directly in. And as soon as his body touches the water, you hear the most blood-curdling scream you could ever imagine. Obviously, your friend must have landed on a rock or been bitten by an animal, so you instantly rush in after him to drag him out. And as soon as you jump in, you understand why your friend was screaming so horrifically. The river you just run into was boiling hot, cooking you and your friend alive. You two have just become the most recent victim of the boiling river in Peru. Once again, we find ourselves in an almost fairy tale location. As I mentioned in the story, the boiling river is a real place, and it's a rather modest river that flows through the Amazon rainforest in Peru. The fog that you and your buddy saw was steam, and that's because this water is hot, and I mean scalding hot. It reaches temperatures of up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, or 93 degrees Celsius, which is, yeah.
There's a river in Peru that goes up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit? Nah, bro, that's crazy. Nah, I ain't gonna lie, them jumping in the water is kind of crazy. You should know, like, I know it's just a cartoon or whatever, but I'm pretty sure you can tell the difference between fog and steam. I'm just saying.
This heat alone makes it one of the most dangerous rivers on Earth, especially because it's so unassuming looking, unless you know what you're looking for. It may be unsurprising to you that this river, like the first, is being heated to such a high temperature by geothermal activity happening beneath the Earth's surface. Fortunately, this river isn't a big risk for tourists, as the location of this river is rather remote and challenging to even get to. And although you and your friend perhaps are experienced bushwhackers, many people aren't. And the majority of the death toll caused by this river are small animals who don't know any better. And on top of the challenging and remote nature of this location and the sheer presence of a boiling river, the last unsurprising aspect that makes this river so dangerous is, well, its inhabitants. Surrounding the river, like many parts of the rainforest, is venomous snakes, venomous spiders, and even leaves that could potentially cut your skin, like little paper cuts. Crazy. Seriously though, yeah, I mean, this one's pretty straightforward, but it's still crazy. I've never heard of this before, so I knew I had to add it on this list of dangerous locations. This may seem simple, but you have to keep in mind, who in the right mind would just assume that a river is boiling? I would say it's relatively reasonable to assume water is cool, or maybe even...
Nobody would assume it, but like you said, they saw a bunch of fog. You could tell the difference between fog and steam. I'm pretty sure they could tell it was steam before they jumped in the water. Before he jumped in that water, I'm pretty sure he could tell it was steam. Like, go on, buddy.
Room temperature at its warmest. But if we've learned anything from these first two stories, it's that if you're in some crazy, isolated, and unique locations, make sure you check the water.
Yeah,
maybe
please
with
check the
a
water.
stick. Or maybe just ignore it altogether. I guess one thing about this river that's cool is that if you get lost in the Amazon rainforest somehow and you happen to find this river and don't become a victim to it, this would be the perfect way to make rainforest soup. Literally, just go catch bugs, sticks, rocks, maybe not rocks,
gonna say
actually. Anything
rainforest
that
soup.
doesn't look poisonous, put it in the water, let it boil, and there you go. You got rainforest stew. So bring it down a little bit on the danger meter because it could save your life if you live off stew. But okay, let's get to the next location. You and your friend,
Please.
once again, find yourself in a familiar place, sitting beside each other on an airplane. Although this time you're more bandaged up and a bit more damaged than you were before. You and your friend are discussing how you must have a guardian angel because even though you are ending up in these deadly locations, you're still somehow just barely escaping, mysteriously. And you're also discussing how you're upset that you never got to make rainforest soup, at least with ingredients that are not your body. It was at this moment when you land and get to your next destination, a destination that is a huge change of pace from the ones you visited so far. You walk off the
Man, went to
plane
a
and
straight
onto
Arctic.
the frozen lake, which is the only runway in and out of this city, and you take a deep breath, only to have your nostrils almost instantly frozen. You were bundled up as much as you could be, but even with the warmest clothes you could find, there's not much you can do against the frigid temperatures of where you're currently at. You have just landed in Oymyakon, an extremely remote part of Russia, which is not only extremely isolated, but it's also the coldest inhabited place on Earth. Plot twist, eh? You and your friend didn't die this time. Wow. Call that character development. Seriously though, Oymyakon is an interesting place, and I don't think it's necessarily hard to understand the dangers of severe cold. And by severe cold, like negative 40 degrees is pretty average during the winter, and the lowest recorded temperature ever was negative 98.9 degrees Fahrenheit, or negative 67.7 degrees Celsius.
No! I hope people, do people live out there? Do people live out there? I kind of want to know the population now, because that's crazy. Nah, that's crazy. Imagine living in those conditions. Negative, oh my God.
Places
Negative
beyond
80
frigid.
is
And sure,
wild.
we could discuss all of the ways that this extreme cold could cause frostbite and hypothermia and other cold-related illnesses and death. But instead of talking about how you would die in this place, I want to talk about how you live in this place. Because living in a place this cold comes with some very unique challenges. Challenges that you probably wouldn't have thought of, unless you're super big brain. And in that case, good for you. The geographic location of the city also not only causes cold temperatures, but causes very weird day-night cycles. Like a lot of places in the Arctic Circle, this isn't too uncommon, so I won't stay on it for too long, but there is extremely dark winters where there is literally just a sunset for weeks on end, which is by itself quite eerie, but that's like a minor detail. The way that this temperature affects everyday life for the people that live here is just rather unusual, and personally unideal. You honestly don't even really live here. You just
Wait, so people actually live here? Oh wow, that's crazy. He finna explain to us how, but that's crazy.
survive here. One of the first extreme inconveniences is the fact that these houses do not have plumbing. And one of the most important aspects of plumbing is your toilet. That's a creature comfort that you give up to live in one of the coldest places on Earth. What you have instead is a nice, shiny outhouse
Oh,
outside.
hell no.
Basically a wooden box around a hole in the ground. But Shrek had one, so that's kind of cool. And while they do have water that runs through their house, it is heated up through coal generators and distributed through the city via a truck that is literally moving boiling water so that it doesn't freeze in the pipe and burst them, which is likely a common occurrence. And even with this minimal running water, it's still extremely inconvenient. But that still is only the tip of the iceberg. See what I did there? Because this place is so cold, parts of regular cars just stop working. The oil gets extremely viscous, which prevent the engine from even starting, which is why locals either have to keep their car running consistently to maintain a proper engine temperature, or if they do decide to turn off their car, they have to essentially light a fire under their engine for a good 10-15 minutes to allow the oil to heat up to become less viscous to allow the engine to hopefully start.
Wow.
So you can really
That's
take your
doing
pick
too
there,
much.
but for most people it's more convenient to simply just leave the car idling. Another pretty major inconvenience. So yeah, so far we got no toilet, permanently idling vehicles, and also permafrost, which means for us, no vegetation, making vegetables extremely rare, and your diet almost fully meat, and maybe the occasional bread if you're lucky. And if you so happen to become a victim of the location in which you live, even your burial becomes a rather extensive process, as permafrost makes not only farming, but also burying bodies rather difficult. And funerals here often begin with a fire simply to heat up the ground. And even then, it's not easy digging into this deep permafrost. But yeah, those are just a few creature comforts you don't get.
That's
and
crazy.
also,
Why would somebody want to live in something like this? I know this, bro. Video idea. I'm gonna go out. No, I'm not. I lied. I'm not going out there. But somebody should go out there and do like public interviews on those people. Ask them how they live and how do they live. How do they survive? Because that's crazy work. It gets -80 out there. You have to warm up your car. You got permafrost. And what was the last thing? He said, warm up your vehicle, permafrost, and you don't have a bathroom? Come on, man. That's crazy work. That's crazy work. You should at least have a bathroom in the house. And if it's that cold, I ain't leaving the house.
So say goodbye to your smartphone because, yeah, you know how it's like kind of cold and your iPhone just randomly dies? Here, if you take any electronic outside, they're cooked. So yeah, you and your friend might have not died going to Oymyakon, but you definitely do not want to live there. So you two already begin packing your bags. Okay, quick intermission and I guess honorable mention. Before we get to this next entry on the list, I just want to mention a general concept, not even a general location, active war zones. Holy. When I was researching for this video, I was shocked by all of the active war zones that there is across the world. Like sure, you hear about stuff on the news, but there's literally so many ongoing geopolitical disputes that just make entire areas completely dangerous to even just be near due to the high tensions. So although this is likely obvious and not worthy of its own point, I did want to make it a quick honorable mention.
Yeah, bro, shout out all my people in the military, my boy Gerard, my boy Devin. They in the military. They overseas right now doing they tours or whatever. Shout out to them. Hope they come back home safe, as always. I just wanted to shout out. Matter of fact, shout out all people in the military. I would never join, but I appreciate what y'all do for the country and that y'all are willing to do that for the country. Because
Going somewhere, especially somewhere you're not familiar with, check for active war zones. Because believe it or not, they can add some complexity to your trip that you likely aren't looking to deal with. Okay, let's keep going. Back on the plane, you and your friends realize that you've experienced a bit of a Goldilocks situation. You've experienced too hot. Now you've experienced too cold. And the next place you're going definitely is going to be just right. Reluctantly, you decide to go back to Africa, but not Ethiopia. You decide to go to the Congo. It's in a different part of Africa, so it's got to be different. You touch down in a city known as Goma, and it's a relatively beautiful place. Once again, you want to continue your hobby of hiking, and you see a beautiful mountain that is just calling your name. The mountain is known as Mount Nyiragongo, but little do you and your friend know, it's also known as the Nyiragongo volcano. Your hike up is relatively peaceful, although you don't see too many locals, but you do see a few scientists wearing some funny looking silver suits. And as you approach the summit of the mountain, you prepare to look over the amazing landscape that you've been spending the last few days in. But as you get closer and closer to the top of the mountain, you realize there is no top of this mountain. There is only a ledge. And if you look inside the ledge, you will find the largest lava lake of its kind in the world. At this point, you and your friend have learned to not jump into random bodies of water. And although this isn't a body of water, to your friend, it still looked a little tempting. You and your friend have learned your lessons around volcanoes and just decided if they're dangerous underground, they're definitely dangerous above ground. So you guys make your way back down, spend some time in the village, and the night before you flight, you reflect on how much fun you've had in the Congo. Until in the middle of the night, during your sleep, you are woken up by people screaming, yelling, and most importantly, running. This mountain and volcano isn't dangerous simply because of the presence of this large lava lake. It's dangerous because this volcano is one of the most active volcanoes in the world. And it doesn't take a scientist to understand that volcanic eruptions are extremely dangerous.
Wait, do people live so in this city, I'm assuming there's a volcano, right? But it's an active volcano. That means it could go off at any time and there's people that lives here? Bro, some people just don't care. Some people just don't care. I could not. I would have moved so quick. Bro.
You, your friend, and all of the locals make it out of the city alive. But unfortunately, the lava has essentially destroyed everything that was there. And that was the reality for many people in 2002 during one of the last eruptions, which left thousands of people homeless.
2002?
And unfortunately took some victims with it. This entry is definitely one of the more known entries on this list, but I wanted to add it because...
2002? That happened in 2002? Oh, that's crazy. Why have I never heard of that? I'm gonna have to do some research on some of these places, no cap.
Volcanoes are just such interesting phenomenon, and it seemed on theme for this video. In reality, many people don't have access to just simply climb to the top of this mountain, as access is tightly regulated due to the obvious risks involved, and it's typically only left for scientists. But like I mentioned, beyond just the lava lake on the top of this mountain, the entire area is prone to seismic activity, meaning that if even the volcano doesn't erupt, there's a very good chance that a dangerous earthquake could cause some serious damage to you or the place that you live. This mountain in general geographic location is beautiful and interesting, at the very least scientifically. But due to the unpredictable and obviously dangerous force of nature, the city of Goma and surrounding areas are definitely a place that I would consider to be extremely dangerous. So yeah, this one's not necessarily unheard of, and it's not even the most dangerous, but I'm hoping the cool factor can kind of make up for that. One quick note I want to make is if you're an OG Trust Me Bro fan, then you probably thought I've covered this topic before, and you're not fully wrong. About 9 months ago, I made a much worse video about how you would die in dangerous locations. And in that video, I discussed pretty well-known locations and I went into detail about how they would kill you. I wanted to make this video because I think the topic is just so interesting, and honestly, my videos are a lot better now than they were 9 months ago. So although that video was fine, this video is a lot better. And if you want a good laugh, check in the description. I'll link that video that we posted.
All right, guys. I think this is the end of the
So
video.
before we get into our last location, I want to say 2 quick
One more
things.
spot.
One, if you've already written a comment saying, I know about these, I live here, please understand this. I'm just a simple stick boy, and a lot of these are news to me. And some of them were just too cool to not put on this list. So if you've heard of any of these, simply appreciate the fact that you're just bigger brained. And if you know some facts about these locations, drop them in the comments. And secondly, I just want to say if you guys enjoy videos about crazy, scary, illegal, and creepy locations, please let me know in the comments below. I try to read all of the comments, and I take your suggestions very seriously. Now, let's get into our final location. And I guess while we're on the topic, you and your friend are now just fed up. You both look like that guy from SpongeBob with the glass bones and the paper skin. And you realize that you've had it with this overseas travel. You're going back to the States and you're playing Minecraft. That's gonna be your form of exploration. But after some time healing and playing Minecraft, you get that wanderlust once again. And you and your friend decide to plan one more trip. Although this trip is domestic, and you're going somewhere that has to be safe. You drive up to Washington State, specifically southeastern Washington State. And the objective of this travel is not to do any outdoor hiking or to do anything crazy with nature. You've learned your lesson. What you want to do is some urban exploring. And you found this really cool, old, abandoned factory-looking place on the Columbia River. And you and your friend approach this location but have to park far away because it is still, for some reason, pretty heavily secured. But you guys are slick. You hike at night into this abandoned facility. This place looks cool. You're walking around, checking stuff out, looking at rusty things and broken things, when all of a sudden, you hear your friend say that he doesn't feel so good. You look up at him and he looks up at you, and you're faced with a ghoul from the Fallout games.
What?
You think you're tripping because there's no way your friend could look like this, when all of a sudden your friend tells you that you look like a disgusting creature. And it's at that point when you realize that both you and your friend have been exposed to massive amounts of nuclear waste. And that you weren't in just some regular factory. You were in the Hanford site, a decommissioned nuclear production complex that was established as part of the Manhattan Project during World War II. Okay, I got a little goofy with the story there, but it is true. This is an extremely dangerous place that not many people are familiar with. At least I wasn't. If you're anywhere in Washington State, this is likely one of the most known because it's native in the US, and it does have relatively major historical context, so consider this one not even unknown. But this one is really cool. And, like you guessed, insanely dangerous. This place had the world's first full-scale plutonium production reactor, and made the plutonium for the Fat Man, which is the bomb that was used on Nagasaki during World War II. So this place has some value. But once the US government thought that they had enough plutonium, they started shutting down the facility and actually closed it down entirely in 1971, which isn't too long ago, at least when it involves radioactive waste. It likely may serve as no surprise that early protocols for disposing of such dangerous chemicals and byproducts were completely inadequate, and now we're seeing the consequence of it. And Hanford site is one of the largest environmental cleanup projects in the entire world. Obviously, there's a few more known ones across the world like Chernobyl and Hiroshima, but domestically in the States, this is definitely one of the biggest cleanup projects. As of last year, they are still cleaning it up, and there's over 10,000 people that work to clean up this site. I'm assuming they have proper protective gear, but still, working in a radioactive site cannot be fun. Or safe. I meant to say safe. Fun or safe. You and your friend survived so many near-death experiences just to turn into ghouls, which I guess is now fine because now you guys can live forever and experience all the places that would have killed you before. What a happy ending. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I had a ton of fun making.
Brad, I just want to say thank y'all for watching. This is the end of the video. If you guys enjoy it, please leave a like on the video. Leave down in the comments any other video y'all would like me to react to in the future. And subscribe to the channel. We are 3 subscribers away from 100. I have a special video for y'all at 100 subs. I'll see y'all in the next one. For anybody that stayed after I just said that, I low-key want to look up these places. So that's what we're gonna do real quick. Let me see if he put it in the comments all the places. He did. Okay. Let's look up this Niragongo volcano real quick. I want to see this. Alright, we're gonna look up the Niragongo volcano. He said this is an active volcano in Congo, right? I want to see what it look like. Oof. So this is how it looks. Okay. That don't look safe at all. To be living near this is crazy. Nah, this is crazy. And then there's a city apparently. Let me see. Where's the city? I'm gonna look up the city real quick. Goma. Let's see what Goma look like. This is Goma. Goma don't look that big now. Let's see what Goma look like though. Goma look kind of nice though. And then you got the volcano in the back. Goma look decent. I might visit one day. What was the other spot? This right here. I want to see what this talking about. Right. Oh heck no! People live in this. Oh, this is nice though. That's a beautiful picture. Y'all see that? That's beautiful. It's so cold out there though. What is that? What are those? People live out here? Nah, this is crazy. Nah, this is crazy. Oh no, people living like this, dude. No, bruh, no. Y'all can't be living like this, bruh. Y'all shouldn't be living like this, bruh. Y'all shouldn't be living like this, bruh. Y'all shouldn't be living. -71 Celsius. That's crazy. Anyway, that's the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed it, I'll see y'all in the next one.